Well, go on. This is your girl, the official Miss Jamaica, coming to you again with another hot topic. Y'all don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on all social media platforms. Check me out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, YouTube. Like, share, comment, please. I'm trying to grow my brand. Y'all help a sister out. But anyway, y'all might also see me on Boss Talk Podcast 101. I'm the co-host on there, so Google Boss Talk Podcast 101, and you'll find me there too as well. Anyway, thank you in advance. Today's topic is, why do we sometimes spin the block? This goes for both men and women now, okay? Not only women, but I think women do it a little bit more often than men for some reason. Now, when I say that, we might end a relationship, okay? Or he might have ended the relationship, but for some reason, we always want to go back. Is that because of familiarity, safety, security, or that's who I know? Or what is it? Why did sometimes could even be a traumatic relationship? It could be toxic. It could be whatever. But forgiveness. So many times I see where people can't give up on a certain relationship and leave because it's bad. Because there's a reason why we want to leave in the first place. Something must have. People don't just leave because it's good. It's always something that happens. So anyway, I gotta include my girl D. Have her call in. So talk about this because D been through some stuff, and I know she gonna spill the tea. All right. So D, thank you. Welcome to Love Always Wins with your girl, of course. Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Okay, so you heard the topic. Okay, so let me know from your experiences, whether your own experiences or maybe other people that you know experiences, situations. Why do women, let's start from women because we are women and we know what we do, right? Why do women tend to want to go back to relationships when it's already ended? Because I know people who said, no, when it's done, it's done. I don't ever look back. I don't know if they lying. Do you think that's cap? Because I think that's cap.
I think that's cap. I think that's cap. I think it depends on the individual. Actually, it depends on what you went through in that relationship. And I could tell you a personal experience
Mm-hmm.
about ending a relationship with somebody and then later on, going back, or what we call spinning the block back and giving them a chance. I think it's primarily because it's the familiar, them just being familiar to you.
No, it's
This
that
is
good
what you
love
know.
making. That's what it was. It's that good love making. Why you go and spin the
Well,
block?
some of them, not all of them. Some of
Oh,
them.
oh, you hear it?
Some of them. Some of them. But for me, I can honestly say that I'm one of them type of females that I just can't randomly hook up with somebody.
Okay.
So for me, I have to be in some type of relationship, right? And so what happens is sometimes getting into that relationship for the sake of just having, it don't work for me. Like that part doesn't work. So when I get into a relationship, pretty much most of the time I am all in, like literally all in. I am only for that person. That person, that's all I see, and try to make it work. So when the relationship ended, like there was a time, dating a guy, I felt like I didn't give the other person a chance because I was still hung up on the other guy.
Okay.
So I went back to that person.
So you didn't have so really what you're saying is that when you break up with a person or the person broke up with you didn't get closure. So when you were trying to move on with somebody else, you tend to want to think about that other person or want to go back to be with that other person because you didn't get that closure from that previous relationship.
I don't think it was so much not getting closure. I think what it was with the other person. I ended the relationship with the other person because of stuff that we were going through, and I was like, yeah, I could do better, right? So get into a relationship with somebody, and then a couple of months in the relationship, that person, the ex starts to come back around, and it's like, so now trying to, feelings that I thought had died, feelings that I thought was over started to show up. And so it was just like, wait a minute. Then I wind up really not putting the energy in the new relationship, and I ended that relationship
because of him,
because of the
of
past,
the ex,
because
of the ex. Okay.
Yeah. So then eventually what happened was I'm sitting back a couple of months later, and I'm like, wait a minute, I really never gave, the new dude, but I
a chance.
with him, never gave him a chance.
Right.
Like I never gave him an opportunity. I wasn't fair.
But let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question before you go any further with that. Okay, so when you left him for your ex and you went back to your ex, okay, all the reasons that you left your ex for, were any of those things changed when you went back, or you went back and be like, oh, that's the reason why I left you in the first place?
At the beginning, because they talk a good game.
At the beginning, things changed.
At the beginning, things changed.
Okay.
Things looked like they were promising, looked like, they were changed. And then all of a sudden, it was just like, wait a minute. You wake up and it's like, oh my God, now I realize why I broke up with that person. Now you're trying to find out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit more difficult, ending that particular type of relationship, because you just be like, I'm done. But it's just because I was familiar with him. I'm just gonna be honest with you. The dating pool out here sucks.
But you were familiar with him, but you did not, just like you said, you did not give your current dude the just due, because you were already in a relationship with him. You should have told the ex, all right, you got to be on pause. I'm now right here. I'm going to give my 100% right here. If this was meant, then later on, 20 years, whatever, down the line, it's going to be. But I'm going to give my all right here. You're not being fair to the person that you're with to say, jump over here. And then if the ex don't work out, what you going to do? Come back to your current ex and be like, hey, you know what? Can we try to make this work now? That don't make no sense.
Totally correct, because that's exactly what happened. It's just like, when you realize that you went back to the old dude, and now you're like, shoot, what am I gonna do? Well, if the new guy you were in a relationship with comes back around, you're going to be like, oh, well, he's coming back around again. Maybe it was meant for me to be with him, right, and not the old ex.
Right.
So then you try, but then you realize all of the red flags that you saw during the first time that y'all were in the relationship together, you just thought that was, oh, I just wasn't giving him a chance. But they were actually red flags that you just
try to overlook because you thought you were in love.
Exactly, because I felt like I needed to give him a chance. Maybe he was acting out because I didn't give him a chance.
So let me ask you a question. Okay, so fast forward, looking back on the relationships that you've been in, and currently you are single right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, but looking back on past relationships, you're like, okay, do you think that females should think more with their heads than their heart in relationships, or do you think that they should think with their heart? Because a lot of times I feel like when we get in trouble, we're thinking with our heart more than our head. Because if you thought with your head, you probably wouldn't have went back.
You're right. That's a good question. And I think that I would say it depends on the person's state of mind. And I say that because sometimes there is a situation where you, like me, I'm a lover, right? I'm a lover. So when I get all in when in a relationship, I'm all in. I get with the guy, I'm all in with him. He's all I see. Although I still find myself, right? Mm-hmm. But I still, that's just him. It doesn't matter who comes around, it's just him. The thing about it is, I don't think with my head.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
Because I'm a lover, so it's like,
it doesn't matter. You can still be.
He deserves another chance.
No, you can still be a lover.
That's thinking from the heart.
Hold on.
right?
You can still be a lover and a nurturer because most women, almost 80% of women, are lovers and nurturers where when they become into a relationship, it's all about him. How can I serve him? How can we make this great team together? How can we? So we're thinking with our heart, but you can still think with your head. Just like in everything you do, you have to balance. So you got to think, you got to correspond with your head and your heart at the same time. You can't just all heart and no head.
Yeah, but when you get to the point where you're so much thinking in your head, you're so much, you're
That's
so
why I
much
said
thinking.
balance.
I do agree. I agree that there should be a balance. Like now, I'm at the point where I think the next relationship that I would get into will probably be literally, I mean, it's not because I won't give him a chance. It's just because I am now with the point of when a person shows you who they are the first time, believe them. When you see that first red flag, and you've already discussed this with them, and that red flag shows up,
Mm-hmm.
that means that they're not really taking this relationship serious. So I've learned a lot of things. If I could go back in time, I probably wouldn't have been married twice.
Married
I
twice.
probably,
Maybe the third time is
yes,
a charm.
married and divorced twice. One,
Wow.
but a set of kids came out the very first marriage, so I
Okay.
only have one father for my kids.
Okay.
But it's just trying to, I guess you could say, get into or having that relationship that I truly believe that I deserve.
But in
And
Jamaica,
it starts with me.
back then when I was growing up, used to have this song that says action, not a bag of mouth. Not all is talking. Actions is what, and that's where it goes with you thinking about stuff instead of here. You understand what I mean? We already know that in the beginning of a relationship, no matter who the person is, who the man is, he's gonna go up and beyond to woo us, and they all know what we want to see, we want to hear, we want to do that. But how long can they keep up a charade? You
That's
understand what I
right.
mean? So, but at the same time, as we get older, and this is where I'm saying that you need to think with your mind and not your heart, because we women, when we think with our heart, we tend to not put our demands in. It's all
You're
about
right.
him, what he wants. Let's do
Yes.
this, and you forgot, you lose yourself in him
Yes.
and the
Yes.
relationship. So I feel that we need to think more with our mind and put your foot down. Not say put your foot down like, because he's still a man, but what I'm saying, put your demands in. Okay, this is what I require in a relationship. If you don't agree with me, then we can either compromise.
And that I truly I agree
But
wholeheartedly
when I say compromise though, when I say we can compromise, just like if you're having a yard sale and you already know that you're selling this shirt right here, and you know that everybody's gonna come and they always you selling it for $10, but you really wanted $10 for the shirt, but everybody gonna come and say, "Oh, I only have $3, only have $5, only have this." So okay, go into the garage sale. You say, "I want 20." So then by the time you get the $10 you want. So same thing with a relationship. Okay, you know that he gonna be like, I don't know if I want to do that or whatever. Already put it all the way up so high, so when he compromised, you really get what you want.
Yeah, and I think some women don't know how to do that. Like in my what I've grown up around, what I've seen with my mom and my dad, now I know that it's dysfunctional
Mm-hmm.
as F, but did not know that then. I just thought that that was the way that it was supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets to that point of I feel like when I think with my head that am I being selfish? Like
Mm-hmm.
I tend to think that way instead of thinking with my heart. Oh, I should give love to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to sit down after the last relationship and really sit back, and I had to siphon all of those things out and understand that it's I did not compromise. I didn't set my boundaries. What I did was I took what he said at face value, not asking anything because I was afraid, hey, I might say something that might make him leave.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid that, I might I might do something that might make him run away. At this particular point now, like, oh well, so the hell what? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I don't care because I'm tired of sacrificing myself. So I'm now putting up my boundaries and I'm standing firm. And I think that's a lot of us have that thing. It's, oh well, if I do this, if I say this, he might leave. It's that thing of, well, I don't want to run him away, but how do you actually keep them? Mm-hmm. And it goes with that thing of, I learned now that, being submissive is not a bad thing at all. Mm-hmm. Being submissive does not mean that I have to give up my independence. Being submissive doesn't mean that I have to stop pursuing the things that I want to go after. Being submissive means that I am more one with my husband.
Exactly.
He's the leader of the house. See, before I'm like, independent, I should be able to do my own thing.
No,
he's not the boss of me, but mm-hmm. I'm going into that relationship already at a major disadvantage. So that means that he is always going to look at me as, oh well, she's independent, she don't need me. That I'm running him away. Not understanding men have this inclination that they need to be needed, not wanted. We women, we need to be wanted, but they need to be needed. Like, if you're a man, your man is supposed to protect you
and need to be appreciated.
Yes, you're right. But that is also the thing of a need to be needed. Like, why, your husband, he's not just going to go ahead on and he know you can buy your own stuff. He know you can do this, but he loves to do those things for you. He loves to go ahead on and do. Why would you stop him from that luxury? Why would you stop him from doing that?
Right.
But that's what I was doing, not knowing that is what I was doing. It was like almost counterintuitive. It was I'm trying to hold my individuality about myself, but what I'm doing is everything that I'm not allowing him to be the man. I'm not allowing him to lead. I'm not allowing him to do. And then all of a sudden, you wake up one day and you're like, well, why isn't he doing this? Well, why isn't he doing that? Didn't you realize that at the beginning you pretty much snipped off his balls mm-hmm. and handed it to him and said you didn't want that? Mm-hmm. So that's what I had to sit down and have a honest conversation with myself, get a ton of feedback from, all of my married friends, because that was the thing that opened my eyes to, I can still be independent, I can still be me, but I don't have to, like, your man going out there, he's fighting all of these battles, he's already got stigmas already against him, he's black and he's a man, you understand what I'm saying? So to come home and not have the peace in his household, I did not understand that. So the last relationship, I gave that to the wrong person.
Right.
Because I knew that going back, spinning the block, literally, soon as we started going back to dating, he started showing up those same red flags that was before in the relationship, but this time it was quicker. Like mm-hmm. he got comfortable too quick
because he already wooed you once before in the beginning. He didn't have to go through all those stages again.
Yeah, he didn't have to go as hard, and I fell for it, and I did not hold him accountable for his actions.
But that's the funny thing. I've told anybody. I've said this before. I've said if you're gonna go back to a relationship because of all the pleading and you felt like he is worth all of that, you should start over from scratch, like he's just meeting you. So he has to woo you all over again. And if he's not willing to do that, because he has to prove himself, especially if, say that, I'm not going to say if he messes up, because if he messed up, reason why the relationship went sour, because I always say anytime a relationship breaks up, it always takes two. I'm never ever going to say it's his fault why you left.
Right.
Or because it's something you did that triggered him, or something that he did that triggered you. So it's the communication wasn't there. And it takes two. So both of you have to work on yourselves to be able to make good together. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why I'm like, you have to start all over from scratch and agree to start over from scratch and put them through it, put both of you through it, so to say.
And that's something that I trust and believe. My motto now is, I'm not going
Can you
because that is
truly, can
not.
you truly say that?
I can honestly say that because I've gotten like I said, the last relationship when I truly gave my all to the wrong person. I knew he was the wrong person. I should have just waited. And that's another thing of why I think we give the guy, give our exes a second chance,
Because you don't
even
want to
after
be
they
alone.
walked us out.
I
Thank
already
you.
knew you
You
were
hit
going
it
to say that.
directly on the head.
Too many
And
people
that's the
don't
thing.
want to, too many people don't want to be alone. Too many people,
And
because I know people who are constantly in relationships, both men and women. And I
yep,
feel like that's not right. That's not healthy. You just
yep,
leave one, broke up today, tomorrow you're already picking up the next one. How is that?
yep.
How are you finding time to heal you, to
And
grow, to
and
be the person you need to be?
that's the thing. I sat down literally. I disconnected from everything. I disconnected from a lot of people. I had to get within myself and understand. And it wasn't just the surface level of healing. I had to go back to that little, the little girl D when
Mm-hmm.
I was, 5, 6 years old, getting all of, like just being overlooked. Why do I have this such hunger to want to be in a relationship and carry it even
Mm-hmm.
when dude isn't doing what he why do I as a woman have to make a man be a man?
Right.
That was the thing that I had to go back and research for myself.
I got a
And
question.
what I found was, man, it once I got, it's like uncovering that little knot. It's almost like when you're working out and carrying on, and you got these cramps, your muscles is sore. Once you've gotten that massage, it feels all good. You're rested up, and then you're ready to go head on, and you can actually add on more weight than what you did last week.
Let me ask you a
So it's
question. This man or men that you're speaking of, were they um did they have a relationship with God?
yes, I hesitate only because I got hooked up on the last one. With that one, I would say yes and no. Like they know God, could eloquently speak the scriptures. That's the other thing. Could eloquently speak the scriptures. However, after the relationship, I didn't realize how much he would speak those scriptures when it was pertaining to my actions and not pertaining to his actions. There was
Okay.
no scripture to cover anything that he was doing wrong, but there was always a scripture to cover the stuff that I was doing incorrectly or wrong. And that's when I sat back and I said, whoa, okay, I got it. I got it. Because the first time I said, hey, we need to go to church, it was like, hey, we need to go to church, start working on this. We're thinking about moving this beyond just being boyfriend and girlfriend, and we're about to, go ahead and get married. I think we need to start going to church. No, not at all. It wasn't until he opened up his mouth and, God knows when you are a true child of God, God knows exactly what you should be doing, when you should be doing it, the whole 9 yard, right? So I knew that I needed to leave the relationship because I got my confirmation from God, but I was too slow to move. So the words that I was supposed to say to break up the relationship actually came out of his mouth.
Mm.
And when he said it, it was like a load off of my back because I didn't have to hurt his feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a part of the lover. I didn't want to hurt his feelings, make him feel bad. But once he said it, it was like, whew, I'm good. So he was trying to get back, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna make you stand on what you said. And we went through that thing, and I realized in that moment, I like literally needed to go back. I need to start doing my own dirty work. I need to start being true and honest with myself first, because if I can't do it with me, then I can't do it with anybody
And you
else.
have to sit down and reflect on, because that's one thing I talk about a lot on Boss Talk 101, is the fact that you have to reflect back to your childhood. and
Yeah.
realize, because that's where it all started from. Don't ever think that
Yeah.
it just started from now as you're older. It started from what you witnessed, whether your mom, your dad, your grandfather, grandmother, people you hung out with on the streets. Because I've seen where people were raised in a great household, sheltered from everything, and only taught great stuff, but end up going out here and doing mischievous stuff because the friends and people that you had around you, or your neighbors, or whoever, the things that you were seeing affected you, and that's what you grasp to, and that's what you end up spewing out as you get older. And
Yeah.
so you have to now retrain your mind. So when people talk about, oh, it's because of my mama, I'm blaming it on other people, pointing the fingers, and then I'm saying, okay, now you're grown, you know what your
Exactly.
problem is. How are you going to fix what the problem
That's
is?
right.
Stop pointing at, looking for everybody else to point and blame something on. Blaming them is not going to help you heal. It's
That's
not going to
right.
help you move on, to be a better person, to have a better relationship, to find happiness.
Yeah.
So you have to forgive whoever it is. Whether you have
Yeah.
to write it down, burn it, give it up to God. Because some people be like, no, I can't give it to my mom. I can't give it to my daddy. I can't say this to my mom or my daddy or whoever it is, because
Yes, you can.
because
Respectfully.
because they're not. But I like to tell people, even if you have to say it to their face and just tell them, don't say anything. I just need to say this to your face, and just don't worry about it. Don't respond, no nothing. But if they're dead and gone and passed away, write it down, burn it, give it up to God. Get it off your chest and say, you know what? This is it. I'm done. I let this go. This is not going to have any power over me anymore. I need happiness. I want happiness. I don't want to have this burden on me anymore. So I'm going to let this go, because I tell everybody, forgiveness is not for that person. It's for you to be able to move on and find happiness and find, closure.
And I'm gonna go one step further on what you just said. I think that a lot of times, like actually at this particular point in time, I am 50 years old, right?
And looking fabulous.
Thank you. Girl, black don't cry. So I did. I blamed my mom, right? I blamed my dad. However, I also have to think about this. I was a kid. I was born in 74, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means that when I was born to my parents, I want to say my mother was 20, my dad was 21, right? They raised me the very best that they could. They raised me with what they knew.
Right.
And their childhood experiences and what they went through influenced their parental styles. So here I am now at 20, having my first son, my first child, and I sat back and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do the things my mama did. I ain't going to say the same things my mama said. Guess what I wind up doing?
Do the same exact thing.
Same things. But what I did was I started to learn better. And what I did was I understood the concept of what my mom would say. Like, for instance, when she says, my dad too, what goes on in this house stays in this house. I understood that. It meant that what we go through as a family stays here. But when you're talking about something that is criminal, something that someone can get hurt by, you need to tell another family member,
right,
or go outside of the house and tell. That's not what they meant when they said
but
that.
That's what you perceived it.
Exactly. So I thought any and everything that goes on in the house is supposed to go head on, and it stays in the house. The beatings, the hittings, the whippings, all of that is supposed to stay. I even thought the molestation that was going on with me by, a younger, well, I would say the same age family member, but of the opposite sex, I thought that was supposed to be okay. It wasn't until later on I made mention of it to my grandmother. My grandmother was like, what? My mom didn't believe me, but my grandmother told his ass up. And I realized at that point, that is what they meant. They didn't mean for me to keep everything in. So what I taught my kids was, hey, look, if you have any issues, whereas my parents never did this with me, you have any issues at any given time, you want to say something to me, and you really want me to get an understanding of what you're saying, you have all of my permission, especially when I got to be of an age, have permission to speak to me. Just say, you look, Ma, I love you. please don't take this personal. And then they went on to saying what they had to say. And sometimes it was laced with cuss words. I got to understand where they were, because now, as my kids are a lot older, my daughter is 25. I have a stepson that's in the middle between my daughter and my son. And the older, which is my firstborn, he's about to be 30 this year. He is like, I mean, literally, I look back at him and I'm like, dang, at first I was like, I did a bad job, but he's like, no, Ma, you did a wonderful job. I mean, think about it. He is a black man about to get his CPA license. He is married, got married first, bought the house, then started having his kids in the order that I taught him, because that's how I was raised up in the church, not from what I knew from what my mom and them taught me, because that wasn't it, child. My daddy was a Rolling Stone. So it was those little things of understanding. I just didn't want to take the same drama, the same trauma that I had in my childhood
and pass it on to your children. But you got to think about this. As we evolved in life and the generations have changed, we are now in a generation where people are more open and healing, trying to heal and vocal about certain things. When you look back, just like whenever you got to a certain age and you realized that you started having kids and you were doing the same things that your mom was doing in certain aspects, at that point you should have picked up the phone and called your mom. As much as she didn't know that you said when you were younger that you were never going to be like her, you should call her and be like, Mama, I'm so sorry, because I understand. You understand what I mean?
The very first time I told my son something that my mom, like, I repeated, and I can remember the day my mother told me, you're going to repeat the same thing I'm telling you right now. You might not understand it, but you're going to repeat the same thing to your kids when you have. And here I am. No, I'm not. The first time I said it to my son, I stopped mid-sentence. I asked my son. I went to the phone. He thought he was in trouble. I went to the phone. I called my mom, and I was like, let me tell you the conversation that I was just about to.
Right.
Tell you what just happened. And she was like,
I told you.
I realized that there's no escaping our parents because they raised us. But it's the thing of, trust me, I love my mother to pieces. I love her to life itself. The same way as my dad. Love him to pieces. Because without them, I wouldn't be here. I probably would be here with somebody else, being my parents that I really didn't like. But them, I love. I admire their struggles. They put it all out there. But I no longer blame them. I used to blame them. Oh my God.
They only did what they knew, because what I was getting to, what I was getting to is the fact that now we're in a generation where everybody's about healing and talking and stuff like that, and social media, so people can research and find healing on YouTube and whatever. They didn't have that back then. So for the main fact that they didn't have that back then, they were only able to learn what they saw their parents did. And they passed that on for generation to generation. Your mama's mama or your daddy's mama told them whatever happened in this house stays in this house.
That's right.
So they repeated that to you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so forth, because as I said, they because of that, they weren't talking to a lot of people to get other perspectives of what goes on in other people's houses, to say, oh, okay, I can do it different. Oh, I don't have to do it like this. Oh, now we are at an age where information is at our fingertips, that we have so many choices to change. You know what I mean?
We are, but
our parents were not. So
a lot of them are still in technology. They're technology illiterate right now.
Right.
But I learned, like with my two kids, my daughter and my son, I'm telling you, they, even as kids now, 25 and 30, they have taught me an abundance of things. Like, in a relationship, going back to the relationship, because I felt that I was being controlled by my parents. This is what I felt. I felt like I was being a a goody two shoe, and I only had to deal with, you know, some of the things that I was going through. I just felt like it was forced upon me. Like, I had to be a people pleaser. I was a huge people pleaser, so that meant that influenced a lot dealing with the relationships. Because a lot of things now that I can honestly say that I have not dealt with or would not allow in a relationship now, I did when I was 20. I did when I was 25, because of the simple fact that I didn't understand it. I just was a whole people pleaser. When I got out of that, like literally got to the crux of why I was a people person, why I was the way that I was, all of a sudden everything changed. And now it may seem like, you know, what I say now is that I'm in my selfish era, right? This is about me. This is not about anybody else. So I'm not, you know, if you show me a red flag, I start to back away because I don't have to please you anymore. Once you have, you know, tarnished the relationship, that's it. I leave you right there. I do not have to extend the olive branch. I do not have to continue to build my bridge because that's it. You messed it up. But then I also have to look at, well, why did I allow this to happen? What could I have done differently? You know, should there have been something that I picked up? So now what I do more than I care to care to even think about, every conversation that I have, I instantly replay it back in my head to see if there's anything that I missed that they said, anything that I said that, you know, I might have missed, and then I go ahead and I address it. But I make sure that I address it not when I'm aggravated, not when I'm frustrated. I will go ahead, I will calm myself down. No longer am I sitting up here at the end of the day being so upset and pissed off about
You must have watched the episode that I did previously, because I talked about something like that, where I talk about meditation. After you speak out of anger and all of that, you have to really meditate, because if you jump up and react right then and there, it's going to be blown out of proportion. But you might need to step back, go in your safe space without nobody there, and meditate and really replay all of this stuff in your head. And why did I react this way? Why did he or she react this way? And really, and if you still need clarity, start writing down, okay, this is what I need to ask.
Yeah.
This is what, and sometimes you might need to text it, because dealing with that person again face to face can eventually escalate to other things. So you might want to text it so that they can think about it, because when people think about what they're saying first, it eliminates a lot of things rather than, you know, just speaking out of your head. Because then if you say something I don't like, and then I'm going to jump in and we're going to go back and forth, tit for tat. That don't make no sense, and you don't get nowhere with that. So if you text them, okay, this is how I felt, this is what I got, da 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 da. And it's hard to do that with men, but if he wants it to work, he will go ahead and sit down when he has the time, and he meditate and respond, because he respects you and he loves you and he wants it to work. Because men do not like to explain. Men are very short-winded where things are concerned. We women are very long-winded. We're going to talk and talk and talk and blah, 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 blah. Men be like, ABC, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to talk about it no more. You know what I mean?
Not to honestly tell you this, too. So, I had a boyfriend who was, I never forget, he said something that really, really got up underneath my skin, right? Because at that particular point, I'm like, everybody's out to get me. You know, oh no, see, that's when I was in my head thinking, not thinking with my heart, right? So I literally went off on him. So aggressive. I was so upset, so mad. We got off the phone. I was like, you are not my dad. Da-da-da. You can't tell me that. I came on inside, sat down for a little bit, eventually wound up taking a little nap. Got up later on. I kid you no lie, when I called him, it was as if we hadn't even, like, I didn't even have that spat. What he said was, he was like, hey, are you okay? Is everything all right with you? Like, he, you know, and I was just like floored, and it was just like, oh my God. He was very patient.
No, that's his way of saying, are you PMSing? Because you started tripping right now.
Yes, he was very patient with me. And like I said, at that particular time, what I've started to do is I no longer look at things in a negative light. Even if something is negatively happening, I always look and see what I can pull out of it that is
Positive.
about it, and then go forward, because that positivity gives me my peace.
Exactly.
And so once I get that, then I'm like, whoa, okay, I can really rationalize what I want to say, stay on point, and not go back in the past 3 conversations we done had about the same thing that really didn't even show up, right? Because that's what we kind of do. We always try to deflect. So I've just gotten to the point, like I said, at the end of the day, I am still on my healing journey. I have learned, no, if I broke up with them, there was a reason why. I do not need to go back and spin the block. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of the boyfriends that I've had after I have been married, I made certain to develop a friendship with them before we started dating, because I didn't do that with the first 2 husbands.
Okay.
So that is something that I've done. Now, out of the boyfriends that I have dated in the past, probably one can call me to this day and still be like, hey, D, but it's never nothing that is, it's never nothing that is disrespectful.
Right.
It is completely
It's a friendship.
out of love. It's completely out of the trust, and it is on the friend foundation, and it doesn't go past the friendship.
Okay.
And that I truly, I look at that as growth, because
I'm gonna save that for another day, because I'm gonna cut eventually. I'm gonna cut this because we can keep going, because and something you just said that I'm gonna write that down, because we're gonna talk about that another day, is the fact that can we be friends with someone that we were exes with? Because some people feel like exes cannot be friends. Yeah. Once you cross that barrier, you cannot have an ex as a friend, because just like how you was weak to them at one point, in that moment of weakness, you never know what else might happen down the line. So, but some people's like, no, I can be cool with my exes. We just like how you said, we just friends. We don't cross the line, blah, 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 blah. Right. But you never know a moment of weakness on a certain day. You don't never know. But anyway, we're going to talk about...
I don't go to see him.
We're going to talk about that on another time, okay? We're talking for a little bit. I got to make sure I don't give them too much, because I want them to watch the whole thing, okay? So, thank you so much for, having conversations with me. I enjoyed it. Y'all heard my girl D. Y'all heard the conversations. Don't forget to comment below. Let me know what y'all think about this conversation and about D and her activities. All right? Well, thank you for watching. This is Love Always Wins, and I love you. Have a blessed day.